After the municipal elections in 2021, I managed to move on to other topics. I did not expect the groundswell of information I would find once I started. Mayor Burns earned 2,434 votes, 52.9%. To Simonian, 2,136 votes, 46.4%. And I thought that was the end. I did other projects and other interviews, got different jobs, and dealt with elections in 2022 and 2024. Earlier this month, I started receiving calls and emails regarding the upcoming election. My old articles started getting increased views on LinkedIn. I found out much more about the government in this little town. After I published the first article, I had to delete comments from a Burns supporter who was being obtuse. The one comment left sums it up pretty well. These comments are from a friend who doesn't have a LinkedIn account. I agree with her comment. Most people who have seriously followed previous Geneva mayoral elections are very aware of Kevin Burns' history of drunken behavior, history of domestic violence, and bullying behavior. It doesn't take attendance at too many city council meetings to observe firsthand his subtle abuse and bullying abilities. Mayor Burns is very adept at sleight of hand, and some people apply the stunts of taking up a considerable amount of prime business meeting time jollying with students or first-time visitors, forcing residents to be an unwilling audience. So much of the time I've seen people look at their watches and figure they might as well have not come and they leave. This has gone on for years and not one council member or citizen has spoken out against it. Not even I. No one wants to be publicly shamed. Kevin knows how to cement votes, and this is only one of the many PR tricks that cause people to bond with him forever in denial of the facts. Residents, wait until Burns' warm-up ends and are allowed to present their cause. Learn you get clever lip service, but if your arguments are not aligned with Mayor Burns' best interests, you may as well give up. If you attend enough meetings, you will even observe his bullying of council members. While Mr. William Page points a finger at the current opponent, he needs to provide documentation that this very well-researched and eye-opening data from Mr. Stephen Anderson was funded by Simonian. Nice smokescreen, but people get smarter about sourcing comments. Mr. Page, if you don't post your proof, you can get back in bed with Kevin Burns. Mr. Anderson's statements are factual and aligned with my personal experience. The recent endorsement from the Daily Herald as a result of the online debate was without any investigation of the misstatements and skewing facts by Mayor Burns. The one or two questions asked by the two reporters during the entire debate were pathetic and without substance. I was closely involved with two mayoral campaigns in which Mr. Burns closely won. It was sad to see how little the average Geneva resident knows about how their city is run and how little attention is paid to what is happening. I am no longer a legit resident of Geneva precisely because of Mr. Burns and his protective followers who deny facts. There are many of them that have left Geneva, but that doesn't mean we are silenced. Does anyone believe in a change of guard or respect in term limits, even if it isn't a law? Under Kevin Burns, for 20 years, the city budget has exploded. He can slickly spout facts that sound as if he's unjustly accused. He's not about helping any taxpayer or Geneva business person unless it means a vote in his pocket. He doesn't own property in Geneva. When I last asked, does he even have a full-time job? The salary for the mayor of Geneva was about $30,000 a year until I moved away. No one asks about what he does for his primary job. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank all the people who have reached out to share their stories and information. Many have asked to keep their names private for fear of retaliation from Mayor Burns. Others have spoken up at public meetings. There is still a culture of fear and intimidation in what could be considered any town USA. Expanding from the first article, there is one part that has since expanded in terms of controversy. Let us go over the tale of Emma's Landing in Geneva. First, a brief recap for those unfamiliar. Coming back into this decade, Mayor Burns has been at the forefront of a new development project in Geneva known as Emma's Landing. From the City of Geneva's website, Welcome to Emma's Landing Development Project page, you will find documents related to this project. The applicant is requesting an annexation, a comprehensive plan amendment, preliminary and final plat of subdivision approval, and final plan unit development plan approval to construct 45 affordable rental townhome units. The applicant, the Burton Foundation, has entered into a real estate purchase agreement with the City of Geneva to purchase the subject property. The Geneva City Council approved authorizing publicly owned surplus land at its July 13th City Council meeting. The city has also updated its fact sheet, answering common questions from residents regarding the agreement and proposed development. You can see the public comment below. This project has been the subject of much debate. You can see the numerous complaints listed by citizens here. Residents of the neighboring areas have even taken to GoFundMe for legal expenses. From the page, the proposed development known as Emma's Landing, to be built and developed by the Burton Foundation of Elgin, Illinois, would include 45 townhouse-style units. These units would house 200-plus additional residents and upwards of 180-plus additional cars. In comparison, the same-sized parcel of land directly across Lewis Road from the proposed development site houses only 30 residents. These units will be identified as affordable housing. However, they will only be available to individuals currently on a waiting list procured by the Burton Foundation. Any affordable housing that is brought to Geneva must serve the residents of Geneva. On July 13th, the City of Geneva officials will be voting to sell the land for the appraised value of approximately $750,000 or donate the ground for a mere $10 to the Burton Foundation. Potential negative impacts include increased traffic and traffic accidents, increased response time for emergency services, significant flooding on both Fargo Boulevard, and Lewis Road, resulting in road closures, education infrastructure stress, including the need for additional teachers, classroom fixtures, and supplies, including but not limited to books, desks, computers, tablets for home use, gym equipment, art supplies, etc. Transportation to and from school and higher property taxes to accommodate the school district and emergency personnel needs. Despite massive opposition from the public, the project has been approved. Odds are it will face stiff legal challenges, resulting in Geneva taxpayers paying for the project's defense, not to mention any cost overruns and maintenance issues down the line. As stated on Jeff Ward's site, to put that in perspective, that's just like cramming 45 homes, at least 225 people, and 135 vehicles in space the size of Soldier Field. What could go wrong with that? Aside from the push for this controversial project, Mayor Burns has made sure other businesses operating in Geneva face fines from the police department for violating COVID restrictions put in place by Governor Pritzker. This has been a big issue in Geneva. The Foxfire restaurant has been in a legal battle with the Pritzker administration over enforcement. The restaurant has taken the case to the Illinois Supreme Court. While Foxfire's limited cases on appeal, Sangamon County Judge Raylene Grishoff last month denied the state's motion to strike discovery in another case and ordered the Pritzker administration to justify his orders or face sanctions like covering Foxfire's legal fees. A business that wants to be open has to fight both the mayor and the governor. While the mayor is pushing a development most people don't like, despite the potential impacts to traffic, density, and flooding for more action in an already overburdened water system, Mayor Burns seems to have taken the side of the governor over his constituents. In November, Mayor Burns moved to fine Geneva bars, restaurants, and small businesses that run afoul of Governor Pritzker's COVID mitigation. First-time offenders would have to develop a C-note, with the fine increasing to $250 and $500 for the second, third, and any ongoing offenses. When most of the city's all-important 3rd Street restaurants, bars, and small shops are already suffering, a $500 fine could mean the difference between staying afloat and sinking. Emma's Landing, an affordable housing development in Geneva, Illinois, was approved by the Geneva City Council on March 8, 2021 through Ordinance 2021-03. The Burton Foundation has been the source of controversy in recent years. A recent article from the Belleville News Democrat covers some of the issues with a different complex. The family doesn't use one of their bathrooms because it stinks like mold. At one point, they saw a mushroom growing out of a damp baseboard next to the sink. They say the living room window lets water in when it rains, and cockroaches and mice have gotten inside. The kitchen sink leaked and the utility room plug needed to be replaced, which they took care of themselves. A smoke detector has been missing since they moved in. Jackson, Helm, and the girls have lived at Centreville Courts for almost a year and say they haven't gotten help with the problems in their apartment despite their emails, calls, and visits to the management office to complain or request repairs. Tenants like the family of 4, as well as city officials, feel the apartments have been neglected by the owner and property manager, which have put off millions of dollars worth of maintenance. It's been nothing but downhill since we moved into this place, Helm said. Robin Jackson took a photo of the mushroom growing out of the baseboard in her bathroom from the moisture in the room. Centreville Courts is a large 12-building complex located just off of Illinois 157, about a mile south of Towchet Regional Hospital. It has about 100 units, but a little over half of them are vacant. The owner is a nonprofit housing organization based more than 300 miles away in Elgin called the Burton Foundation, which is operating in Cahokia Heights under the name Partnership 18LP. Fawcett Management Group, Inc. manages the property. Lamar Gentry, the Economic Development Director for Cahokia Heights, said the Burton Foundation is also not responding to the city's requests to make improvements identified by code enforcement employee. Some apartments in the complex have boarded up windows, missing siding, and holes in the ceiling and floor from water damage. One former tenant has filed a civil lawsuit in St. Clair County Circuit Court over the conditions there. Major issues include a mice infestation and leaking roofs, which are causing standing water in crawl spaces and mold, according to Gentry. The city's not satisfied with the ownership nor the management of those apartments, Gentry said. They simply have not done any repairs. $5 million in deferred maintenance is what's creating the problem, he said, referring to the nonprofit's own estimates. The city has been trying to get them to fix some things. They've been reluctant to do that. The Burton Foundation recently told tenants the apartment complex was closing for financial reasons, then took it back and promised to make needed repairs to the buildings. Officials from the nonprofit either declined to be interviewed for this article or did not respond to requests for comment. When covering this story 4 years ago, many people told me they were not opposed to mixed-income housing projects in Geneva, but they were concerned about this particular foundation, the connections between its owners and Mayor Burns, and the lack of oversight in the future. This would result in tragedy years later. From December of 2024, 2 people died after a domestic incident December 26 in the 2700 block of Emma's Way, Geneva police said. Geneva police responded at 8 p.m. Thursday for a fatal domestic violence 911 call. Inside the residence, they found a teen and a woman stabbed to death, according to the Kane County State's Attorney's Office. The State's Attorney's Office identified the woman as 47-year-old Christina Shavir and referred to the other victim as 13, 60-year-old DC. Both were pronounced dead at area hospitals, police said. The Cook County medical examiner identified the boy as Damien Shavira and listed his cause of death as a homicide from multiple sharp force injuries. He was pronounced dead at 1:30 a.m., December 27. After the Kane County Coroner's Office was called to the hospital to assist in the investigation of Christina Shavira's death, her body was taken to the Kane County morgue, where an autopsy was performed on December 27. Preliminary findings indicated the cause of death to be consistent with multiple stab wounds. Toxicology samples were sent to a forensic lab for further analysis, officials said. The suspect in the incident is 50-year-old Alejandro Cota Meduzia said. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 2 for intent to cause death, a grave bodily harm, and 2 for probability of death, Deputy Chief Matthew Dean told Patch. Warning. The next article describes some of the crimes in detail. The Kane County Coroner's Office conducted an autopsy on Christina Shavira, with preliminary findings indicating the cause of death to be consistent with multiple stab wounds. Cook County Medical Examiner's Office conducted the autopsy on the boy and found the manner of death to be a homicide by multiple stab wounds. The boy was stabbed 37 times with multiple knives, including several that penetrated his skull and one that severed his spinal cord, according to a report from the Daily Herald. That night, police found Cota on the roof of the residence with $5,000 in cash on him. The Geneva man has a criminal history that includes entering the United States illegally after being deported in domestic battery, the Herald reported. How did an undocumented alien criminal get to a place that has rigorous standards for occupants? What was the city of Geneva going to do about it? This was the concern for many residents during the city meeting on March 3, 2025. Public comments start at 17:45 if it does not show in the embedded video. One of the comments was, why hasn't the city checked in on Emma since it was passed? One of the council members mentioned that it wasn't their responsibility and that was the state's job. Some information out there would lead you to believe that is not the case, and it starts with the city government. Apparently not in Geneva. Several residents who live in Emma's Landing reached out to confirm that there have been many issues since Emma's Landing opened up. Emma's Landing was developed by the Burton Foundation and managed by Fawcett Management. This development was meant to be for disadvantaged people with disabilities to be able to afford to live in Geneva, affordable housing, and a safe place to live. Reality has painted a different picture. There have been 111 police calls to Emma's Way from 2022 to 2024. A similar FOIA was pulled for the apartments in Pepper Valley, about a mile away, double in size versus Emma's Landing. There were 3 calls, 2 building patrol, and 1 911 hang-up. In November of 2024, a tenant beat his pregnant girlfriend and her mother, and on 12/26, there was a tragic double homicide of a 13-year-old boy and his mother. Crimes were committed by men who should never have been allowed to reside in the landings, as they both have significant criminal records, and one is an illegal alien who was deported twice and served 6 years for drug trafficking at the border. A tenant inside the landing complained about the men's behaviors several times to management before their crimes in late 2024, and nothing was done. They were knowingly residing there while not listed on a lease, which is a breach of the application the landings wrote themselves. The lease states anyone living in the residence over the age of 18 needs to be on the lease. The development of the property was awarded to a construction company called Door Pre-Construction. The president is Brian Fellhauer. Coincidentally, the husband of the Burton Foundation's president, Tracy Manning. Since the tragic murders on December 26, 24, 2 more convicted felons were found to be living at Emma's Landing after being released from IDOC and later picked up for warrants. Emma's Landing is receiving funding from AID. AID is a 100% license holder for group homes. Emma's Landing Burton Foundation Fawcett Management is putting people in housing through a court diversion program called Mental Health Court, and AID helps them find housing, subsequently sending them to live at Emma's Landing, living amongst small children, families, and people with disabilities. So you have a licensed group home zone of 6 with no zoning variance for them. The state pays AID to pay for these people's rent. To get a sense of the concern and compassion these residents have, please see public comment from March 17, 2025. I have highlighted the testimony from Lindsay McCall. If it doesn't show, go to the 30-50 mark in the video. With all these problems associated with the Burton Foundation and Emma's Landing, you would think they would put a pause on future developments. However, the city council seems to be full steam ahead. This is from local coverage from journalist Jeff Ward. Considering their so far disastrous Geneva reign, what's the foundation's newest ploy? Having already snapped up the land, they want to cram another 54-unit low-income housing project on the site of the former Duke and Lee's gas station on the corner of 3rd Street and Route 31. That's smack dab in the heart of what's about to become the not-so-quaint downtown Geneva business district. As the mayor clearly wrote in his missive to Miss Moran, the city of Geneva is pleased with Emma's Landing. Wait, who's pleased? That brings us to our third light, because that's not what I'm hearing. The non-progressive aldermen have been mildly complaining about what Emma's Landing has become, that has have a surprising number of city staffers. The police department isn't happy with the constant calls either, and to imply that the citizenry is behind it would certainly fall in the category of one of Mark Twain's damn lies. Upon review of the information collected by residents of Geneva via FOIA request, a website was put up showing the timelines regarding what appears to be suspicious coordination between the Burton Foundation and the city of Geneva. I will be quoting from the site at length since it is thorough and detailed. Below are messages showing how Mayor Burns, the city administrator Stephanie Dawkins, and David DeGroot withheld material information from the city council to avoid questions on the process they engineered to allow a developer with a checkered history to change the intended use of the Duke and Lee site. They allowed the current owner to further testify in that meeting, where he was pleading for an extension of his plans, knowing that his statements were not true. In the process, the mayor likely exceeded his authority and publicly made false statements that he was directed to do so by the unanimous consent of the city council, while no meeting minutes exist to support such claims. Sharing files from multiple Freedom of Information Act requests to enlighten the citizens of Geneva as to exactly how the mayor has used city staff whom he appoints to their positions annually and acted himself as well to assist the developer with whom he has personal ties going back to his high school days to push through a project without any opportunity for public comment until after the project is approved by city council. This includes accepting letters from the developer in question and cutting and pasting verbatim in one case and almost verbatim in another. Withholding information from the council on who the buyer is, not advising them of the material changes to the project, and that there was no funding for the project, as the seller's representative was advising them. The following timeline lays out the process chronologically for you in their own words from emails that they gathered about the events related to 609 South 3rd Street. Upon finding out in June that the Burton Foundation did not qualify for state financing after all of their efforts to make it happen, the group emails Dawkins and Burns to suggest that they withhold information from the council as the site is tied up until October and they can let them know after Crespaw's plans are extended so the zone stays intact. They allowed the seller's rep to tell the entire council she was all set and close to having her financing. She was just in the beginning phase of attempting again, and they knew it. The mayor's letter said to the item was either done with unanimous consent or at the direction of the council. He says, in violation of the Open Meetings Act, as there are no agenda items, meeting minutes, or recordings that would memorialize this ever being done in a meeting. Secondly, emails show that the first time the council sees the letter is the 10th of April as an example in case they want to send their own. The mayor is either being dishonest in public statements about this letter or breaking the law. If the mayor's letter was not done with a vote and direction by the council, he is acting outside of his authority to assist a developer who stands to benefit from state subsidies. This developer will profit from the favors that the mayor is doing. Mayor Burns, David DeGroot, and Stephanie Dawkins have gone to tremendous lengths to keep this project off the development map on the city site when projects with far less work and coordination are on there. Mr. DeGroot and the mayor wrote letters at the direction of a developer and may have simply cut and pasted these letters at their direction. Mr. DeGroot's letter suggests a process that completely avoids public comment until after approval of the development by the council to help the developer get state subsidized financing. Timeline, March 2024. March 20th, DeGroot and Manning discuss impact fees by email. Attachment not provided in FOIA. Email from Kim Termini Burton Foundation to David DeGroot. DeGroot replies that he will forward it to the mayor and ask for plans for a site review. They were subsequently provided Ed, who sent under a different email as the files are huge and were initially not provided under the FOIA. Manning replies to DeGroot almost immediately with the plans for the 54-unit development. DeGroot emails the mayor with the request for the letter. Burns replies, of note, as seen above, the plans were already sent to DeGroot before he sent this email, but he must not have reviewed them. March 22nd, DeGroot replies to Manning and copies others with a zoning letter to Ida. The request was to copy and paste on the city letterhead, but the city is withholding the Burton attachments, so we cannot compare but have no reason to believe he did not comply with the developer. March 25th, Dawkins emails the council and the mayor about the project, indicating the Burton Foundation has submitted a project, despite the mayor's adamant statements that there is no project submitted and no plans at both, and neither ever made it to the website almost a year later. She then says it's not a formal submittal. March 27th, Manning tells the group they got preliminary funding and are under an option on the property, should know more in a June 4 email. With no council meeting since March 18th, where this was not on the agenda and no other meetings shared on the website, the mayor writes a letter of support for a proposed development and provides an endorsement for the Burton Foundation in the letter. His claim in the attachment above is that this was done with unanimous support of the city council and its direction to me. When was this direction given? He later described the letter as almost perfunctory, knowing full well that is not true. This letter was needed to give Burton Foundation points on their application. April 3rd, DeGroot to other staff indicating they will be including others in the discussion and talking about the project at the staff meeting. April 10th, Ms. Dawkins emails the council informing them the mayor has written a letter dated the 27th as an example if you wish to send a letter of support. The mayor, however, has publicly stated that this letter was done at the direction of and with the unanimous consent of the council. This is not the case. Ms. Dawkins and Ms. Boren exchanged emails. The mayor states this type of letter is all but perfunctory but knows this is not true. It was written at the request of the developer, possibly even drafted by the developer, and gives the developer points in their submission. It's a favor to a developer done with no due diligence and no authority to do so on behalf of the city government and council. If it were all but perfunctory, then why has Ms. Dawkins never seen one before? Why is the council seeing it after it was sent? May 17th. After numerous emails and several calls, DeGroot sends Manning an updated zoning letter based on the feedback Manning got from the state on her application. In point 3 of this version of the letter, there is a very material change. This time, the group lays out clearly to Ida that site plan review will not allow for the applicant to be cross-examined, not any public comments until after council approval. Manning's letter to the group that was withheld from us is critical here, as this may constitute fraud on Ida, as there is no way that the group could get this process through given the variances required. It would need a full hearing with cross-examination and public comments. June 3rd, Dawkins, Burns, and DeGroot in an email find out that the Burton Foundation did not get their financing, and DeGroot suggests they hold off advising the council until the site is extended. The mere suggestion is that they withhold the information from the council, knowing that there will be another attempt to extend the plan, and they do not want to jeopardize it. See the council meeting below where they play up that the buyer has the financing and this is the fastest way to get this done, etc. They allowed Crestfall seller's representative to say that they must have the financing because they have money down and they're close to ready to go, while they knew that was not true. October 1st. Ahead of the 10/7 meeting to approve the Crestfall plans, Manning again sends an email to DeGroot asking him to pull a letterhead and edit as necessary, and he obliges. October 3rd, DeGroot and Manning email exchange about the 10/7 meeting where DeGroot acknowledged that she would have to have a full site review with the plans changing anyway, and this could cause questions from the council. They then talk. No, Manning had already presented a completely new and different set of plans for a 35-unit project. Still no mention of anything on the site. No on the council meeting agenda, even though it was known that Manning and an architect would be there. No mention of this project or any changes. The entire agenda was to extend the existing plans as is for another year. The reason that they needed this extension was not the plans, it's the zoning. If the plans expire, then the zoning would have to start all over again, requiring full public hearings and cross-examination as a full zoning change does. Ultimately, Manning does not appear at the meeting at all after talking with the group. October 7th City Council meeting. https://www.geneva.il.agenda/view file /agenda/100072024-2423 pages 362 and 363 are the full extent of what is in the packet regarding the property. No mention of who the buyer is, even though it is fully known to the mayor, Mr. DeGroot, who was present and was even asked by one of the council members. Meaning recording the irrelevant part at 10 minutes and 0 seconds minute mark. November 2024, Burton Foundation closes on the property. January 2025, the mayor hosts a meeting of citizens. Roughly 30 concerned citizens attend. All Kosrog, all marks. Mayor Burns is asked if the Burton Foundation had any plans to develop anything in Geneva. He said, not to my knowledge. Further emails after the fact recapping the meeting. The mayor parses words more carefully and says to the effect, no formal plans have been submitted. 2 sets of plans have been submitted and preliminary reviews performed. However, citizens have taken action. From what has been said to me, here is a letter sent to the Illinois Housing Development Authority, IDA. I have begun forwarding our information to interested press outlets in what is going on with the Burton Foundation Tartesso project proposed in Geneva, Illinois. As you oversee the funding process, you should be aware of how the city of Geneva is handling this project. The mayor has provided you letters that he did not clearly have the authority to send, and additionally, the mayor's city manager and development coordinator have worked to withhold information from the council to make sure that zoning extensions were pushed through before they were aware that the Burton Foundation did not get financing in 24. It appears to be completed in this process and should not be in any way associated with fraudulent applications for taxpayer funds. I renew my request with an increased sense of urgency for you to audit the Burton Foundation and increase scrutiny of their use of taxpayer subsidies. Thank you for the time on the phone yesterday. I've gone to great pains to put this in a timeline for you with relevant snippets, so you don't have to go back and forth, and included all the source information obtained by FOIA. I have 2 different sets of plans that were submitted. I will send them along if you need for verification, but you will see an email that they were sent and forwarded to the mayor. There are several issues here that are disturbing. The mayor's letter sent to Ida was either done with unanimous consent and at the direction of the council, like he says, in violation of the Open Meetings Act, as there are no agenda items, meeting minutes, or other that would memorialize this ever being done at a meeting. Secondly, emails show that the first time the council sees the letter is the 10th of April as an example in case they want to send their own. The mayor is either being dishonest in public statements about this letter attached or broke the law. I've requested he point me to the meeting minutes and he has not. If the mayor's letter was not done with a vote and direction by the council, he is acting outside of his authority to assist a developer who stands to benefit from state subsidies. This developer will profit from the favors that the mayor is doing. Mayor Burns, David DeGroot, and Stephanie Dawkins have gone to tremendous lengths to keep this project off the development map on the city site with projects with far less work and coordination on there. Mr. DeGroot and the mayor wrote letters at the direction of a developer and may have simply cut and pasted these letters at their direction. Mr. DeGroot's letters suggest a process that completely avoids the public comment until after approval of the development by the council in an effort to help the developer get state-subsidized financing. Upon finding out in June that the Burton Foundation did not qualify for state financing after all of their efforts to make it happen, DeGroot emails Dawkins and Burns and suggests that they withhold information from the council as the site is tied up until October and they can let them know after Crestfall's plans are extended so the zoning stays intact. They allowed the seller's rep to tell the entire council she was all set and really close to having her financing. She was just in the beginning phase of attempting again, and they knew it. March 10th, 2025, the Office of the Attorney General, State of Illinois, sends a letter asking for information in regards to a possible violation of the Open Meetings Act. 4 years later, what is happening in Geneva? It appears Mayor Burns is up to his old tricks, using his connections to get favors for connected developers who do not have the best record for managing properties. Despite warnings from the residents of Geneva about potential problems for Emma's Landing, they were ignored. Now with crime a problem in the area, the city wants to ignore and demonize those who speak out in opposition. With an election coming up next month, the people of Geneva deserve better from their elected officials. If you are upset with the state of the country, the most powerful thing you can do is vote in special and off-year elections. It will have the most impact on your life, and it's the election that will have the lowest turnout. Your vote is far more powerful in April than it was in November.